Hello everyone, welcome to Anime Nomi, and thank you for joining us for another One Piece video. In today's video, we're going to talk about some possibilities that surround Joy Boy, and now that Luffy has awakened his fruit, what could be happening down the road. Now it turns out that Zunisha, when he talked about Joy Boy coming back, it left us a little bit confused, and saying that Joy Boy had come back to life. So with this amazing twist that Luffy's devil fruit is not in fact a rubber paramecia, but a mythical Zoan, we wonder, could this interfere with our protagonist's body and mentality? Is it possible that Joy Boy could begin controlling Luffy, or exercise his will? Or could it be that Joy Boy actually lived to the will of the devil fruit? So in today's video, we're going to talk about the possibility that Luffy may somehow get controlled by Joy Boy and do pretty much anything the mysterious character wants, or at least what the fruit deity wants. And this could cause Luffy to lose control of his body altogether. But before we dive into the video, if you're new to the channel, we'd be absolutely honored if you consider leaving us a like, or even subscribing with a comment letting us know what you thought of the video. It really helps us out and motivates us to make more content. And if you'd like to help out the channel in a bigger way, consider sharing the video with a friend. But without further ado, let's get into the video. So it seems that Luffy has managed to acquire a legendary power. As was said a few chapters ago, Luffy possesses the rarest and most feared fruit in existence. A fruit where the ancient Gorosei, who commanded the world government many years ago, decided to change the name of the fruit so that no one would ever know of its existence. Now it's not known when, but the ancient Gorosei seemed to manage to obtain this amazing devil fruit. And during this time, they decided to give it the fruit a new name, which for a long time came to be called the Gomogomo Nomi. It's very likely that they managed to obtain this fruit after one of the former bears lost his life, even though this fruit didn't remain in the world government's possession for very long. Now, even though this is a legendary fruit, why didn't anyone learn about the existence of this fruit after the Void Century, an event that happened over 800 years ago? With a fruit as powerful as this, even though it had been eaten at least by several other people for years, apparently no one had ever been able to awaken this power, and the fruit still remained unknown for many generations. A possible answer to this question may be that only a member of the D clan who possesses this fruit will ever be able to awaken it, and that might be because the will of D is Joy Boy's will, which would allow Joy Boy to control the one who possesses this power. But the way this fruit would work might not be an overall possession, but rather suggesting how the possessor might make their decisions. For instance, encouraging actions or even helping them to control this immense power. However, even if it was only encouraging the new owner of the fruit, Nika's or Joy Boy's will would be giving this character a new lease on life. And that would be for them to fulfill some mission that Joy Boy has for many years struggled to accomplish. And this could be to save the world from the world government, in which the past was the 20 Kingdoms. Or within this organization, it could be the rival that Joy Boy had for so many years and had been trying to stop. And that mysterious character was known as Imsama. But we really don't know what Imsama has been planning all the while in the background. It's also not known really how Luffy's fruit awakening works, and we also don't know what Joy Boy's message means now that he's returned, but it may be that Imsama's will has been passed down through the world nobles. After all, Imsama does seem to have a connection with that giant straw hat, which seems to have come from the Lost Century. However, we do not know if Imsama really lived during the Void Century, or if he inherits the will of a character from a past devil fruit, just as been done with Nika's fruit. But whatever the case is, it does seem that since the Void Century, there has been a rivalry between the D clan and the world nobles, and it may be in the past that Imsama and Joy Boy were rivals, apparently because Joy Boy possessed something that Imsama and the nobles desired above everything else. Now, this thing that Imsama and the nobles desired could be something that the D clan owned, for instance some kind of wealth or even the mystery of the One Piece treasure, because the D's could have been the ancient bearers of this treasure that had great power and guarded a secret in it. And knowing Imsama's intentions of trying to obtain this treasure, Joy Boy could have hidden it. So in order to prevent Imsama or his descendants from ever finding the One Piece, Joy Boy may have passed his will down through the devil fruit so that he could prevent great chaos in the future. Now Imsama could have learned of this action and also done something similar, and placed his will on a devil fruit in which, when that fruit was eaten by another, it would have imparted his will, but it wouldn't be a member of the D clan, but rather it would be passed down to a few select celestial dragons who could awaken and inherit Imsama's will. Now the D member who possessed Joy Boy's legendary fruit, once they awakened it, they would inherit the will of Joy Boy, but they might still retain control of their body. But the character who would receive Joy Boy's will and mission would keep the world nobles away from the treasure. Imsama, on the other hand, would pass his will over the world nobles, forcing them to act as him and exercising his will. Imsama, in fact, would probably be able to possess their bodies, because there could hardly be a person who could live for more than 800 years. So as Imsama's will was passed on to the celestial dragons, each one would be a receptacle that Imsama could control and live on through hundreds of years. And this cycle could have gone on for years and years, where the will of Imsama and the will of Joy Boy may have been passed on to various people. And while Joy Boy helped people by saving them and was considered the sun god Nika, the bearers of Imsama's will performed the task of controlling the world government and seeking control over the entire world. It also could be that the Gorosei are responsible for being able to find Imsama's next successor after the current one lost his life, thus creating an infinite cycle of D-Clan and celestial dragons who would be fighting for the will of their predecessors. So currently we see that Imsama is in fact the character who remains in total control of the world government. And this could be one of the reasons why the Gorosei obey him, since Imsama may even be the founder of the world government and the world nobles. But because of past events, he has managed to pass on his will to his successors, just as Joy Boy is also passing on his will through the successors of the D-Clan. After all, this would explain the great interest Imsama seems to have in Luffy, since he may be hunting the very people who are inheriting Joy Boy's will. And Imsama, after all, does have Joy Boy's possible hat in a safe. It may be that he keeps this hat because it carries something deep or significant, something that only the world nobles know exists. For as we see, Doflamingo seems to know what this hat can mean. So if Dofi is talking about this straw hat in Imsama's safe, it could mean that the existence of this hat would shake the world all the way to its core. This hat could be the very evidence that reveals Imsama's true motive, which is to capture Joy Boy's descendants so that he can end the cycle of the D-Clan, and so that he can obtain the power that the D-Clan had hidden inside the One Piece treasure. But for this to be accomplished, Imsama first needs to capture Luffy, who currently has awakened Joy Boy's will. Now, there have been some unofficial rumors that in the next few chapters, we may have more revelations about who Imsama really is. It's been speculated that upon learning that Luffy has awakened this fruit, Imsama would send an entire marine fleet headed to Wano to destroy the entire island, so that the Straw Hats would not escape, and to destroy Joy Boy. Because if the Marines managed to eliminate Luffy, it would make it a little easier for Imsama to find the legendary fruit again, and so that he could keep it in a safe place so that no other D-Clan member could ever possess it. It's also quite likely that because of his awakening, Luffy is now able to change the entire environment of Onigashima, and revealing to us this incredible power that has remained hidden for so many years. But this power might also affect Luffy's life. We know almost next to nothing about Joy Boy, so his real goals are still unknown. The only information we really know about him is that he was a very important person, or a person that lived during the Void Century. We also know that he played an important role in the history of Fishman Island, and left the greatest treasure that exists on the last island of the Grand Line. This treasure that we know now today as the One Piece. In fact, the first mention of Joy Boy was an eponeglyph read by Nico Robin in the Forest of the Sea. We also saw that the King of the Pirates, Goldie Roger, wished that the two had lived during the same period after discovering the true story of Laugh Tale, meaning that Joy Boy could have been a very interesting person and possessed a personality similar to that of Goldie Roger, because the King of the Pirates could have identified with the actions of Joy Boy performed in the past, so he might have really liked to have known him. We also heard it predicted by Kazuki Oden that Joy Boy was expected to reappear after 900 years. Now, while King thought that Kaido was that figure, Joy Boy, it might mean that it's a title obtained by the one who brings peace upon the world. So with Luffy recently becoming Joy Boy, we really still don't know what this means or represents, because we don't really have much information about this character. But it may be that Joy Boy's will can be passed on through his fruit, as previously stated. So when Roger reached the last island and conquered the Grand Line, he discovered the true history of the world and concluded that he and his crew had done everything too soon, because they possibly should have waited for Joy Boy's return. But now, the time could be perfect, because Luffy and his crew could find the One Piece, because Joy Boy would have come back through Luffy's body. So this may be the era and the exact time for everyone to look for the One Piece. It may also be that Luffy is some kind of key that is needed to open the One Piece or achieve it, a key in which he can awaken a great treasure or accomplish a great mission. So only those that carry the will of Joy Boy can truly fulfill the purpose of the One Piece. But with this awakening, Luffy seems to have now become a target of the world government, since he would now carry on Joy Boy's will, and he may even be able to use powers beyond this fruit, abilities that Joy Boy possessed beyond the power of Nika's fruit. And if we also consider the letter that Joy Boy left to the fisherman, we know that he wanted to bring Noah to the surface and also bring the fisherman to live under the sun. So we know that he was very capable or incredibly strong to pull this whole thing to the surface. And now that we've seen that Luffy has the strength to grab Kaido in dragon form, there's no telling of what else could happen in the future. But for now, we'd like to know what you think about it. Do you think that Luffy will be able to communicate with Joy Boy or be influenced by his will and the fruit? Do you think the awakening was a really necessary thing and that now Luffy can actually find the One Piece? Or Or perhaps even further, is this fruit the key to the actual One Piece? Let us know in the comments below. So friends, as we bring our video to a close, we'd like to thank you so much for watching it all the way till the very end. Make sure you comment any themes or ideas that you'd like to see in future videos. And also, since you've made it this far, give us a like as you head out to take on the rest of your day. Hope to see you all in our next video, and let's keep sailing this giant sea together. Take care.